Hello, welcome to the video. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at section 4.1. We're going to be writing equations in slope-intercept form. So sometimes you are going to be given some pieces of information. Sometimes you're going to be given a graph, and the task at hand is to be able to write it in slope-intercept form, which we all recall is y is equal to mx plus b. So essentially, if we have our y-intercept, which is b, and we have our slope, which is m, we have enough information for us to figure out what our equation should be. So for these two examples here, they are giving us the slope and they are giving us the y-intercept. So essentially we are just putting it into the form of y is equal to mx plus b. So the slope, remember, is m. The y-intercept is b. That's for both examples. So for example A, our equation would then be y is equal to negative 3x plus 1/2. And for B, our equation would be y is equal to 0x minus 2, or to simplify, it can just be y is equal to negative 2. Here they give us a graph. Now, with these two graphs, they have indicated the y-intercept as one of the points. So if you look at part A, or example A, they're telling us that the y-intercept is located at 0, negative 3. And for example B, the y-intercept is located at 0, 2. So that means that we actually are given the value for B. B in this example is negative 3, and B in this example is positive 2. So now there are two different ways that we can go about in finding the slope. Because it's a graph, we can count using rise over run. So we can go over here and say, okay, starting at this point, 0, negative 3, I go up. Looks like it's in, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I go to the right. 1, 2, oh, sorry. I need to go up a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I go up 6. And I'm going to go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So positive 6 over positive 4 gets reduced to 3 over 2. So my equation for this graph would then be y is equal to positive 3 over 2x minus 3. And you can use the slope formula too. The y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, just like we did in chapter 3. For part B, starting here, I went down 1, 2, 3. So going down means negative 3. And it goes to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's positive 4. So my slope for this one's going to be negative 3 over 4. So my equation is going to be equal to negative 3 over 4x plus 2. All right. So for these examples, they didn't give us a graph, but they gave us 2 points that are on the line. What makes these 2 points nice to rewrite as an equation is they give us the y-intercept. They gave us the y-intercept here, and they gave us the y-intercept there. So we know for a fact that we have our value of b. B in this case is going to be equal to -1 in example A, and b is going to be equal to -5 in example B. Remember, we're using this formula. So when they don't give you a graph, it's probably in your best interest to use the slope formula to indicate what the slope is for each line. So I'm going to call this one my x1 and y1. This is my x2. This is my y2. So to find the slope here, I'm going to get -1 minus 5 divided by 0 minus a -3. I have a cross the line change of sign situation in the denominator, and so -1 minus 5 is -6. 0 plus +3 is 3. This gets reduced to -2. I have my slope, I have my y-intercept, all the information I need to write my equation, which is now going to be y equals -2x minus 1. I look over at b, I do the same thing. I plug in the slope formula, so this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So now this turns into -5 minus a -5, all divided by 8 minus 0. So this becomes plus plus. -5 plus 5 is 0. 8 minus 0 is 8, so I get a slope of 0. So again, this is y equals 0x minus 5, or it gets reduced to y is equal to -5. It makes sense because both my y values are the same number. That gives me an indicator that it would have been a horizontal line on the graph. Here, it says write a linear function. So essentially, instead of writing it in y is equal to mx plus b form, you're just going to change y to f of x, and that's going to be equal to mx plus b. If you were to write it like this, it would be okay, but this is how they want you to write it in function notation. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to try to decode what this means in function notation. So what they're saying here is this is f of 0 equals 10, and over here this is f of 6 equals 34. So what you need to understand is, since this is x inside these set of parentheses, this is an indicator of your x coordinate for function notation, and this would be your value for y in function notation. So if you wanted to rewrite this as an ordered pair, f of 0 equals 10 is actually 0 comma 10, which means that f of 6 equaling 34 would be rewritten as a coordinate of 6 comma 34. So if you notice that they gave us the y-intercept, so that means that b is equal to 10 here, and I would use the slope formula to help us solve this. So again, x1, y1, x2, y2, so this would be 34 minus 10, all divided by 6 minus 0, which gets us 24 over 6, and that gets reduced to 4. So my function notation would be f of x is equal to 4x plus 10. Finally, here it says excluding hydropower, the U.S. Power plants use renewable energy sources to generate 105 million megawatt hours of electricity in 2007. By 2012, the amount of electricity generated had increased to 219 million megawatt hours. It wants you to write a linear model that represents the number of megawatt hours generated by non-hydropower renewable energy sources as a function of the number of years since 2007. Use the model to predict the number of megawatt hours that will be generated in 2017. All right, so let's do this. So we need to create an equation, all right? It is going to be a linear equation because that's what we've been dealing with. So I know I am going to use y is equal to mx plus b, all right? What we're going to say here is we're going to let x be the years since 2007. So x is going to be years since 2007. So if I were to make a graph per se, right here where x is 0, this would be 2007. So like if x is 1 it would be 2008, x is 2, 2009, so on and so forth. And then my y value is going to be an indicator of how many megawatt hours are going to be generated in that year. So we have a couple of pieces of information. So they said in 2007 that we got 105 million megawatt hours. And then they're saying here that in 2012 we have 219 megawatt hours. So let's put this in as an ordered pair. So 2007, we said that x is 0 in that particular instance. So my ordered pair for this piece of information is going to be 0, comma, and I'm just going to say 105 because both of them are in the millions. So I don't need to write in all of those values in for this particular example. Now, the second one for 2012, it said it was 219. So I'm going to put 219 in for y, but what are we going to put in for x? X, again, is years since 2007. So if I took 2012 and subtracted it by 2007, I would get 5 because it's 5 years since 2007. So this is my two sets of ordered pairs that are going to help us formulate an equation. So this particular one just so happens to be our y-intercept because it crosses the y-axis because it's 0 comma b. So I know that b in this case is 105. If I were to write an equation, I need a slope, so I'm going to use slope formula. So this is my x1, this is my y1. I'm going to say that this is my x2 and this is my y2. So to find the slope, I'm going to have 219 minus 105 divided by 5 minus 0. So I got 219 minus 105. I get 114 and I get 5. And that gets reduced to, if you wrote it as a decimal, it'd be equal to 22.8. But you can also leave it as 114 over 5. So it doesn't matter which one you do. So I would say y is going to be equal to 114 over 5x plus 105, or if you prefer to use the decimals, y is equal to 22.8x plus 105. Either one. And then they ask for one piece of information. They're asking us to predict the number of megawatt hours that will be generated in 2017. So that is, so 2017 minus 2007 gets you 10 years. So essentially you are going to say x is going to be equal to 10 and you're going to plug it into one of these two formulas to get a prediction. So we can say that y is going to be equal to 22.8 times it by 10 plus 105. And when you take into account order of operation and all that, y gets us a value of 333 million megawatts. So this is our equation, and this is our prediction in 2017. And that is being able to write equations in slope-intercept form. Hope this helps. Till next time.